This is a stunning opening trap of 11 fish variation against Sicilian Dragon, and you can crush your opponent in just 14 moves like Nazmedinov. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the video. Nazmedinov with the white pieces opens the game with this e4, c5, knight f3 and d6. We see d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, and with this last move g6 we see this bishop move and we go into the Sicilian Dragon. And now the fun starts when we play this f4, and this is 11 fish variation against Sicilian Dragon. And this is a very tricky move. There are multiple moves possible here. You can play this knight here, you can push the pawn, you can just develop this bishop on g7. All these moves are possible. So you can also ask, can we play this queen move, pressurizing this diagonal, because we already weakened up this diagonal and you don't allow this bishop to move forward because we are pressurizing the pawn. But this would be losing because we have this pawn push in the center, and once you take, this knight is returning on this d7 square. We have this wonderful idea with this knight b5, and this would be very tricky move. Once you play something like this silly move, you would just lose this game after this knight is jumping on d5 attacking the queen, so you don't have time to capture it. And once you go back with the queen, we can just deliver a check and your queen would just be lost. So you want to deliver a check, but this would not work obviously. We can just push the pawn, and once you move the queen, we can deliver a check, and once the king move, we can just capture this free rook, and this is winning. But we can also trick our opponent by playing this pawn push. This would be a very surprising move because after you capture, we can deliver the wonderful checkmate in just 6 moves. So we deliver a check, and once you move out of this pawn chain, you can deliver this wonderful checkmate in just 6 moves. So once you go on this g8 square, we can deliver a check with the bishop, we can push the pawn, and once you move on this g7 square, we can deliver a check with the knight, and this is the wonderful checkmate. You take away this square, this is covered, and this bishop is slicing this diagonal. So it's obvious this is a wonderful checkmate. So that is why the pawn push is obviously not possible, and you want to play this knight a6, prevent any of this knight jump coming with a threat, but still we can jump with the knight, and this is very tricky. Again we attack the queen, so you want to deliver a check, but we can just block with the bishop, and once you go back on the same square, otherwise you have to keep on this c7 square, otherwise knight check and other knight check will again pick up this rook. But we have very interesting move with this bishop, and the best move here is to capture this pawn. And once you go for this capture, we have a very surprising sacrifice with the knight, and once you capture with the pawn, we don't need to capture first because this is losing, and we can just eliminate this queen from here, and we can deliver a check and fork this. Obviously this was not a fork, and we can fork this, and this would be completely winning game for you. But what happens if you don't really play this knight capture here and you play another move like this pawn push? Because you can never develop this bishop, we are having extreme pressure on this e7 square. So you want to push the pawn, but this would be the mistake, and you can win the game on the spot because of this check, and the pawn is pinned because you are losing the queen, and the king is getting checkmated. After few of the moves, we capture this queen. So this was there in the game. If you really play the queen move first, that would really be losing. So what can you play? There are other moves possible. You can develop this knight, and this would be a good move. And after this, you don't want to develop the bishop because this knight can just jump here and harass this bishop, so you want to bring this bishop back. And once you play this e5 move, we capture here, and we would see this queen move, and you would have to castle queen side because all your bishop is stuck in the king side. So this would be an equal game, and you don't want to play this. So after this knight is jumping, you want to play this bishop, so you want to prevent any threat against this knight jumping on g4 square. But now you can play this queen move attacking while pressurizing here. But we have the very wonderful move with the bishop, and you allow this queen to capture here. But obviously this is a poisoned pawn, and we can play this knight on b5, and this is very tricky. We are threatening to go here, so the best move here is to play the queen on b4 square, otherwise you are losing. Once you play the king move, your queen is just trapped and you don't have any escape route because all the squares are really covered. We are protecting this. So after this you want to play the queen move, and we don't have to deliver a check because this is losing, because this knight would be hanging. So first we want to prevent any capture with this knight, and after this, if this is the best move, you want to play this bishop here, and we deliver this check and we pick up the rook for free. But what happens if you really think just to get away from any of the discovery with the knight? Then this would be lost game again, because the queen is now again trapping the queen. You don't have any good square. This is covered, and all the squares are taken away with this bishop and the pawns, and the game is simply lost. So you can never play this queen capture this pawn here, because this is really lost. And after this move, bishop to g7 was played in the game. But now again we see the pawn push. We have capture, and now this knight is returning on d7 square. This is the absolute best move. But in the game against Nizamedinov, this knight is coming on d5 square, and this is completely lost. I would show you what is the best defense. After you go here, black was afraid of this pawn push, so that is why he played this knight on d5. So this is not a problem, but you have to calculate precise. After this pawn push, you really don't want to capture, because if you really capture with the pawn, this leads to very complicated game. After you capture here with the knight, attack this, and this is very tricky to play. You want to deliver a check, remove this from here, and once you go with the queen out and attack this pawn, we can play bishop b5, or any other move with the queen is also possible. Obviously you cannot really capture this bishop, because if you really capture, we can threaten this check, and this queen is really lost. So we can deliver a check, and the queen is lost. So after this, we want to invite this queen capture with this pawn and threaten the queen. So we can just block with the queen and invite this queen to capture the rook, and we can just castle here, and this would be really amazing game, because knight check is already there, so we don't need to hurry. And even if you play the knight move, we can just eliminate, and this knight check, we can pick up the rook, and the king will stuck in the center of the board. So this is there in the game if we really play this pawn capture, which is obviously losing. So best move here is to play this knight move on this e5 square, so you don't have to worry. After this capture, you can just capture with the king, and after this you just want to attack and develop the bishop, but this will not help. This rook is coming into the game, and this would be an equal game. Once we develop the bishop, king is going inside the board, we can just castle, and after this you can see this wonderful queen sacrifice. But this is obviously not a sacrifice, because after this queen takes, we can deliver a check, and this we are picking up the queen back. So once you capture here, we can deliver a check, and once you go inside the board, this is really a wonderful game. You would see this bishop move, and you would have to go for some wonderful moves like this bishop check, and this is still very tricky to play. You don't want to play the king move, because if you really play this, you are completely lost. We can deliver a check and deflect this king from this diagonal, and we can pick up this rook, and this would be an easy win, because this knight has still not coming into the game, and the rook is there hanging. So this would be completely winning game. if you don't play some good moves. So after this you need to really push this pawn, and we play the rook move attacking this bishop, and we give up the bishop for temporary sacrifice. But again we can just capture here, and once you capture here we can deliver a check with the bishop and pick up our piece, and this is an equal game from both the sides. Obviously you can take pawn structure is really bad, but your double pawn is not going to cause any problem to black. So this was there in the game after you just play with this king capture, and this was really an equal game. But this was not played in the game, and after this pawn push this knight is jumping on d5 square, but now we completely win the game. We deliver a check with the bishop, and that's it. You don't want to block with the knight or the bishop, because if you really do, this knight is falling for free. So you just want to move the king, and this is the absolute best move. And we just castle here, and after this castle all the moves are possible. You can play this knight here, and this would be completely fine. But black played another blunder of this game by capturing this pawn, and this is completely lost position, and we see this wonderful check with this bishop. And if you really play this bishop back, then this is completely losing, because after this we can first capture with the bishop, and you allow this capture to happen, and we can capture this knight here, and once you capture with the queen we can deliver a check, and your queen is lost. So that was there in the game, so you cannot really play this. So after this bishop check, his opponent did not dare to play with this bishop, and the king move was played. But now we see the beautiful knight move. Again this is same kind of theory. You want him to capture here, and now we see the very stunning move with this knight, and we are going for this exchange. And are you giving up this bishop? Obviously not, because if you really capture this bishop then you are just getting checkmated, and we reach the position from the thumbnail. So obviously you cannot really capture the queen, because we don't need trade, and we will just deliver the checkmate from this bishop is covering this diagonal, and this is a wonderful checkmate. So after this knight move, your queen is under attack and you want to play something. So his opponent played this queen check first and attacking the king, but now this bishop is getting back attacking the queen. Again the threat is just the same. If you really capture here, we can just deliver a checkmate from here, because this knight is covering this, and you would have to block with the queen, and this would be a checkmate. Let's say you go here, we can just go with the queen, and once you go with the queen, and this would be a checkmate in one. So obviously this was there in the game, and you cannot really play this bishop capture. So in the game this queen here was played, but now we see the stunning checkmate in just 2 moves. We deliver this wonderful check, and now if you play this king move you are getting checkmated, because this bishop is covering the diagonal, and we see the checkmate with this knight and rook. But in the game after this knight check, black just resigned the game, because there is only one move. You play here or here and you are getting checkmated. So if you really want to enjoy this kind of video, you can watch the first video, The Greatest Queen Sacrifice in History by Nazmedinov, and you would definitely like it. The first link in the description would be the video. So I will see you soon in my next video. Till then, you can take the subscription of this page so that you can earn the subscriber badge, and also some exclusive videos are waiting for you, and you can gain early access to these videos. And whenever I create any Lichess study, you would be getting notified, and I will add you there on Lichess. So see you soon in my next video, and thanks to my supporter of this page.